Hollywood panics over Deadpool now pushing purpose-led branding to ruin movies. Deadpool was a massive success. It was a return to being on brand and giving audiences what they expected when they would go see a Marvel character movie, grossing more than $1.3 billion worldwide. Massive hit brought the MCU back alive at Disney. And now these guys put out Hollywood's next superhero, purpose-led branding. Purpose-led branding is prioritizing pushing a message for a specific social mission over trying to make money. That's exactly the opposite of what Disney did when they put out Deadpool and Wolverine. Yet the author of this article in Variety is trying to put out that the success of Deadpool and Wolverine had something to do with purpose-led branding. From Variety, Hollywood's next superhero, purpose-led branding. Brand philanthropy, once a loss leader or the cost of doing business, is now a driver of both relevance and profitability. Mega hit franchises like Deadpool or Jurassic World have an opportunity, even obligation, to market with conscience. No, they don't, and no, they don't. It's not an opportunity, and there is no obligation. The only obligation to your audience is to give them what they expect to get, just like any customer would expect something when they walk into a movie theater or when they buy a product or buy a service. They expect to get something in return that's worth more to them than the money that they're spending. That's the obligation of the producer, not to push a social agenda. Forging a mission-led campaign engenders a win-win cultural connection that lasts far beyond a film's 2 hours. Now, the person writing this article, you can understand why they'd be pushing this agenda, because they have an advertising agency that sets up these kinds of partner relationships. Jason Keene is the founder of A Company Creative, a New York City-based mission-led ad agency and winner of Ad Age's Small Agency of the Year in the purpose-led category. Okay, so he sells these kinds of ad campaigns and the creation of these relationships with product manufacturers. Disney did set up many relationships with major manufacturers to help in the promotion of the Deadpool and Wolverine movie, and that did work out very well. From Campaign, how these 6 brands are collaborating with the Deadpool and Wolverine movie. They had Heinz promoting ketchup and mustard. They had Jack in the Box. They had Heineken. They had DiGiorno Pizza. They even had The Bachelorette and Old Spice cologne. Those were creative. It was a good idea. It helped get the word out about the film, and the brands must have done very well with it, and they're happy. That doesn't mean you need purpose-led branding for movies. They've already tried it, and it doesn't work. The recent triumph of Deadpool and Wolverine is a timely reminder that movie marketing is increasingly high stakes and high ambition for Hollywood, particularly for summer and holiday releases. Huge legacy franchise films such as Jurassic World, Avatar, and the upcoming much-anticipated Wicked are 10-figure businesses in and of themselves, becoming evergreen IP set to compete for revenue well beyond box office sales and streaming views. So far, the article is completely on track. At least those 2 paragraphs. As such, they require a long-term strategy and consistent brand stewardship over their emotional relationships with audiences. This is where they get sneaky. No, they don't. The emotional relationship for audiences has to do with what's going on with that character and that character's journey. The author goes on to say, much like any other lifestyle product. That is not true. A lifestyle product doesn't have its own story. Characters have their own stories. You can't have 2 competing stories. Marvel in 1985 did a comic book called Heroes for Hope starring the X-Men. Heroes for Hope was a one-shot comic designed to raise awareness about hunger in Africa. Proceeds for the comic went to the American Friends Service Committee. All of that is fine, and you can do promotional events like this. You can do a project and donate proceeds and do things like that. But when you do a story and the social mission is more important than the characters, you can't learn anything or relate to the characters in the story. That's why it can work as a one-shot. But it will never work as an ongoing part of an intellectual property brand. He continues, from dinosaurs and dolls to this year's gravity-defying witches, mega-hit franchises are effectively modern multi-category aspirational brands. They're really not multi-category aspirational brands. There's a story that's associated with a character, like they did with Deadpool when they let him save the universe or universes, and like they did with Wolverine where it was a redemption arc. Just because you can associate your brand with Heinz and you can associate your brand with Old Spice doesn't mean that your brand is the same thing as Old Spice. They are rich in cultural currency and have an opportunity, if not an obligation. Though they don't have an opportunity or an obligation to consider the social impact of their global imprint and legacy alongside their financial success, particularly for kids and families. All you can do when you've got a great story to tell is tell your great story. Hopefully you inspire people to do positive things in their lives or to steer them away from doing negative things. By cultivating more meaningful relationships with their audiences, blockbusters can stand for something more impactful than entertainment, and they can forge that purposefully. If you ask somebody what Star Wars meant to them when they saw it when they were a young person, the original Star Wars, or any of the original Marvel characters, or any of the original Marvel movies, they related to them personally. It was more than entertainment. Luke Skywalker was a teenager. He was going through things and acting like a teenager. He wanted to get on with his life, and he couldn't get on with his life. And a lot of teenagers feel like that. It's very normal for a teenager. Then something happened in the story, and he was able to go on with his life. He was forced to go on with his life and become his own person. Having a well-written, meaningful story that people can relate to, that put them in a positive direction in their lives, show them ups, show them downs, show them victory at the end. You can't do much more for people than that. While the cultural influences of a film's storytelling, such as inspiring positive perceptions and challenging rigid societal assumptions, which you should not necessarily do in a story, sometimes it's good to learn your place in the world instead of pretending that there is a place for you in the world that doesn't exist. Today's consumers live in a perpetual polycrisis and desire more direct societal connection from mega brands. No, they don't all live in a polycrisis. What is a polycrisis? A polycrisis is a time of great disagreement, confusion, or suffering that is caused by many different problems happening at the same time so that they together have a very big effect. A 2024 Ipsos survey found that 70% of consumers tend to buy brands that reflect their values, with Cone Communications several years earlier revealing that 87% of Americans purchase products because a company advocated for an issue they care about. And none of that relates to trying to turn Deadpool or any other Marvel character into someone pushing a social agenda or trying to raise awareness about hunger in any particular continent. This is especially true for Gen Zers, who are notably vocal about social issues and represent the age demographic franchises needed for sustained loyalty to sequels. Jurassic World Rebirth, for example, the 7th film in the Jurassic Park canon, drops next summer, some 32 years and an entire generation after the first. Philanthropic behavior by brands, once seen as a loss leader or the cost of doing business, in 2024 is a strategic driver of both cultural relevance and profitability and a welcome tool for an industry facing financial challenges. This is a guy who will write an article to Hollywood, who is essentially in a depression right now. People can't get work in Hollywood. Studios, even Disney, Paramount, laying off hundreds of people. Almost every day there's another story like that. Trying to tell this industry that they need to distract themselves with giving money essentially to his agency to set up relationships to push a social agenda that isn't going to work for them really isn't the right thing to do. And making the claim that philanthropic behavior by brands is somehow a good financial thing for brands to do is not true. If you research purpose-led marketing, you'll find this. What is purpose-led marketing? Purpose-driven marketing contributes to a business's long-term sustainability. Okay. Businesses can create a more resilient and adaptable brand by focusing on a mission beyond profit. Or mission beyond profit, you say? Oh yeah. For example, what are examples of purpose-led marketing? A purpose-driven business is a business that's main focus isn't on maximizing profit. A core part of purpose-driven business identity is based around improving social issues, even though the steps they take do so means they earn less revenue. So if they're going to earn less revenue and they're not focused on maximizing profit, how is that going to help Hollywood make good movies, make good TV shows, or even make as much money as they could make if they just went back to giving people what they actually wanted. It doesn't help. It's a hustle. And now he goes into the close for his pitch. So, how can movie execs adopt purposeful marketing, both to elevate the connection their releases have with consumers and to bolster return on investment? Below are some guidelines based on the work of a company creative, a leader in the purpose-led marketing movement in the film, luxury, fashion, and beauty categories. If you're going to say, by the way, why don't we just check out this leader, a company creative? That would have been the time to legitimately tell people your company is a company creative. Everybody's got to hustle one kind or another, I suppose. But this really sets me off because Deadpool and Wolverine brought Marvel back from the dead, even when maybe they couldn't bring them back from the dead. It does just tell you, as long as it's not decades away from the last time you did something good, you can probably revive just about any brand by giving people what they remember and they associate originally with the brand. But legitimately, here's a guy that's telling you there's this great marketing firm that made these suggestions. Why don't you check this out? But doesn't really tell you until you've read the whole pitch and probably somehow bought into the pitch that it's actually his company. Okay, here's how you do it. Grab the low-hanging fruit. Movie franchises are ripe for mission-led marketing innovation. They contain highly layered emotional worlds with built-in moral codes, well-established iconography, and fleshed-out characters. In other words, a brand marketer's dream. Yet Hollywood at large has invested very little in marketing extensions that center on social impact or have a sustainability focus. They nearly destroyed their businesses by pushing out things that would make people happy for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And now you would push them back into this direction, but basically just call it a sustainability focus instead. Hopefully, most people in Hollywood have caught on to the scam by now and realized you can't do that. You're in an industry where, just like every other industry, just like the video game industry that's getting destroyed right now, if you don't give people what they want, they're not going to actually buy it, and you will lose money, and there will be layoffs, and some of those layoffs are going to be the Hollywood executives themselves. Last summer's Barbie had some 165 marketing partnerships, and while the film focused on positive social commentary, most were not purpose-led. Although the Barbie Dream Gap Project, a girls' empowerment initiative that included a donation to Save the Children and aligned it with Warner Bros. Discovery and Mattel's Airbnb Dreamhouse activation, in terms of messaging it was more nice to have and missed the opportunity to be a truly integrated element. Barbie's take on women's empowerment, sisterhood, and breaking gender stereotypes easily could have extended to like-minded brands and nonprofits for a pink-hued program that packed a punch. Smart studio marketers have an opportunity to stretch their franchises into the needs of the real world and maintain authority across cultural conversations. No, they don't, and no, they don't, because it's fine if you have a normal movie that's on brand, and Barbie was essentially on brand for what Barbie you would expect it to be. And if you want to put in some gender stereotype bashing on the side, you're allowed to do that. No one's going to be offended by that. It's never going to overpower the brand of Barbie and what you expect. Whenever you put too much of this countercultural stuff in the movie, then the movie becomes about countercultural stuff and goes off-brand very quickly. And that's what this marketing guy would have Hollywood executives do. Authentic cause marketing requires cultural permission to leverage its meaning for commercial gain, as well as a company's conviction to put its money where its mouth is. And it's a fine line, as movie marketers who don't tailor their purpose programming to the topics and tone of the film risk appearing overreaching, exploitive, or disingenuous. Exactly as the author recommends they should do. Just overdo it, push the ideology, push the social agenda, and then see how normal people respond to the movie. They won't go and see it anymore, and then these movies will bomb again. Film narratives often touch multiple cause-related themes, and many social issues are intersectional, raising questions of mission focus and hierarchy within purpose marketing. Avatar: The Way of Water staked a claim for ocean conservation through a Disney partnership with the Nature Conservancy. Although an integrated impact program focused on indigenous communities would have also resonated. Would have resonated where? Would have resonated with ideological people. All they have to do is start pushing this a little too much. Jurassic World Rebirth might focus on fighting corporate greed and genetic modification, promoting women's leadership in STEM, or more broadly supporting biodiversity. better hone their efforts, marketers should develop a SWOT style or opportunity analysis that overlays their audience's aspirations with the cultural temperature of a given cause. Ideally, brand stewards would prioritize a cause linked to the overall franchise rather than just one film, so the purpose-led investment can evolve over the course of the series. Matching the level of earnestness embodied by a film also insulates marketers from purpose-washing backlash and skepticism. Yeah, you have a risk of purpose-washing backlash. Yes, there are people that have criticized movies and said, hey, you haven't gone far enough pushing our agenda. We want you to push more of our agenda. You're greenwashing or purpose-washing. That is such an absolutely minuscule percentage compared to the number of people that say, I don't even want to consider your project, your movie, whatever it is that you're doing, because it's obvious you're pushing an agenda and you want us to pay for that with movie tickets. Or buy your video game. People don't want this. They are rejecting it out of hand. Any amount that you do is a massive risk. The more you do, the more exponential the risk. For example, films such as Avatar and Barbie have that activist spirit, allowing for a more full-throated social impact stance for their respective causes. Whereas emphasizing its action-adventure scenes, Jurassic World might dial down its tone to be more advocate than activist. The level of a film's commitment to social impact can be calibrated through donation amounts, participation of celebrity talent, and awareness-building content programs that inspire audiences into action. To build the long-term health of an evergreen film franchise, a purpose-led strategy can integrate with license categories and brand partnerships. No, they can't. They really can't. Every time you try to do that, it absolutely fails. Consumer products have both tangible and experiential aspects that allow for positive social impact narratives to last beyond a film's 2 hours. Well-thought-out toys, apparel, and decor stay rooted in a consumer's memory and integrate into lives and relationships in personal ways, even across generations. Universal, the studio behind the eagerly awaited Wicked, has already announced its initial list of partnerships across fashion, beauty, toys, food and beverage, and big box retail. While some of those deals are purpose-led, such as Lush Cosmetics, it's not yet clear how the franchise will build synergy through a cohesive mission-driven lens to truly make the marketing feel like a movement. Because you would have to adapt the entire story and the entire brand to essentially be the Heroes for Hope X-Men comic book, which if you do that, then it's not the X-Men anymore. It's the X-Men trying to bring awareness to something, and because it's the X-Men, sure, you'll take a look at it, but you're not going to have a successful Heroes for Hope big money-making type of event. You're not going to have a franchise that's anything except a very small, ineffective, not profitable vehicle for whoever owns the intellectual property. It doesn't work. Purpose-led marketing stands poised for breakthrough, and the blockbusters that seize this opportunity will lead Hollywood's future and even redefine its cinematic influence. Of course, written by Jason Keene, who's there to sell you services from his accompanied creative, New York City-based mission-led ad agency. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another story. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.